16. Our son woke up from the sound of what he said sounded like a bowling ball being dropped from the ceiling. That was the sound of my head hitting our tile floor after going unconscious from a seizure. I wasn't responding to my husband's attempts to wake me long enough for him to call 911 and to wonder if he may be losing me. 8 years ago, I started developing what are called temporal lobe seizures. These may be different than the seizures that you're used to because there aren't any convulsions involved. With temporal lobe seizures, you run this risk of them worsening over time and beginning to impair a variety of your functions. I'd never before gone unconscious from one of these, so this was a big deal. I'm laying on our couch moments after this happened, feeling the magnitude of what this could mean in my life. Would I suddenly start going unconscious at unexpected and unpredictable moments? Would I be able to drive again? Would I still be able to live my purpose, the single most important thing to me? And do I have a tumor in my brain, one of the main listed causes for seizures? I'm sure you all can relate to those seemingly life-altering moments and the wondering of what they will mean in our lives. And I noticed that as I laid there scanning the possibilities of my fate, is that I felt this overwhelming peace. And I have to say, even though I'm a joy coach and a joy teacher for a living, and I've spent my adult life cultivating joy from the inside out, I was still struck by just how unshakable my happiness felt. And I realized that I could trace it back to this one overriding conviction that I hold at the heart and center of my life. There are gifts in everyone and everything, if we see them. I had never before met a person or had an experience where this wasn't the case, and I knew this would be no different. I knew there were incredible gifts available to me in this, that I could turn this into something amazing. This wasn't the first time in my life when I realized just how powerful this conviction is, how profoundly it has shaped my happiness. 7 years ago, after being asked so many times by people, "How are you so happy all the time?" I decided to set out on this quest to study my life day in and day out for an entire year. How did I feel so much joy? I actually wasn't entirely sure. And so I thought, I want to document this and find out. When people would ask me about my own happiness, I saw the hunger in their eyes. Sometimes when people would ask me about my own happiness, I saw disbelief in their eyes, like, there is no way anybody can actually be that happy. And I get it. Joy can feel kind of elusive and mysterious, short-lived and fleeting. Perhaps for some of you, happiness seems nearly impossible. I long to give people a fuller response to their questions about my happiness, and I wanted to give them an answer that offered hope and guidance for more joy in their own lives. I knew that I hadn't always been this happy. I used to be painfully shy. I have this memory as a kid, like hiding in the racks of clothing at the store just to avoid people. I used to have a harsh inner critic. I was afraid of making a mistake, and I gave fear too much power in my life. So I knew it wasn't simply that I was born this happy. And yet some part of me did wonder if I was just somehow really lucky, like if I'd somehow won the joy lottery. So I got out my journal and I was ready to document my life for this 1 year. And it only took 1 month into this self-study for me to realize just how often so-called bad things actually happen in my life. And this realization relieved and delighted me, because it meant that my joy wasn't simply based on things always going how I wanted them to or expected them to. In fact, in that first month of me documenting my life in this way, one of my dearest friends was diagnosed with cancer and died 3 weeks later. My family and I were in a serious car accident. Our beloved family dog needed 2 multi-thousand-dollar surgeries that we weren't expecting. And we had this house renovation project that went awry. I noticed that other people around me were struggling through these same kinds of things, and I still felt happy. And I realized that there were specific things that I was doing to help minimize unnecessary suffering and to maximize my potential for joy. And the great news is that these things were teachable and available to all of us. And there's one particular theme that I noticed ran through everything that I experienced that year. I saw the gifts in everyone and everything. I held firm and unwavering in that. And I saw them everywhere. And as I did, it opened up pathways to happiness that were otherwise unavailable to me. Deeply devastating things happen in our individual lives and in our world. And I'm not suggesting that these things are simply good or meant to be. I would never want to invalidate or dismiss or undermine anyone's pain. When I'm working with my clients who are navigating a difficult thing that's happened in their life, what I tell them is this: it happened, and it was hard. So we might as well suck it dry of every possible good thing that it can offer you and others for the rest of your life. Because we humans really are so powerful. We really can turn our breakdowns into breakthroughs, our messes into miracles, our pain into something purposeful, our losses into ever-expanding love. There are gifts available to us in all of it, if we see them. And the more that we see them, the more happiness becomes available to us. So, what happens when we start focusing on the gifts inside of everyone? You're probably already quite familiar with what happens when we don't do this. To me, one of the greatest tragedies is that we've been given the most extraordinary opportunity to share this planet with other unique human beings. And we go around just judging each other. Have you ever found yourself skipping over the gifts inside of someone and instead focusing on their imperfections? What they could have done differently or better or didn't get right? Have you found yourself like spending precious moments with friends just gossiping about others, complaining about them, annoyed, frustrated, disappointed in humanity, and probably not so happy? When have you ever been in criticism and felt joy? Criticism is funny because it gives us a shot of adrenaline, which is like crack and is so addictive. But it is nothing like true, heart-opening, expansive, liberating joy. That comes from love. And this is not to deny the more challenging aspects of who we are as humans. We are imperfect, and we are all lifelong students here at Earth School. The learning curve of life can be sharp, and we make a lot of messes along the way. We get hurt and scared and confused. We make messes, and we sometimes even misdirect our gifts in ways that cause harm. What I'm just suggesting is that if we want to be happy, we must not overlook the gifts. If we want to be wise about this world that we're all building together, surely we want to look around and see what each one of us is uniquely good at, and then respect and appreciate and learn from one another. 9 years ago, I was inspired to do this social experiment. I wondered what would happen if I opened up our home once a month for an event. It would be free and open to all women. They didn't need to bring anything at all, nothing tangible. The only thing that women were asked to uphold is this foundational belief that there are so many beautiful gifts inside of every single one of us. And we would come together to recognize and celebrate and share our inner gifts for the greater good of all. Throughout the evening, women spread throughout our home, sharing their inner gifts with each other in ways that are meaningful and beneficial, holding up these loving mirrors for one another to see each other's gifts more clearly. I decided to call it the Buffalo Sisters Gift Circle, and I put buffalo in the name to represent the abundance we experience when we give thanks for everything that is already within and all around us. We've been gathering now for 9 years every month, and hundreds of women have participated. This circle has proven time and time again what I hoped in my heart was true. When we choose to focus on the gifts inside of everyone, we begin to look out and see all around us, inside of everyone, these treasure chests of things to teach us and inspire us, to contribute to the collective and bring balance to the world. After 2 friends from my graduating class died of brain tumors within the same year of me going unconscious from my seizure, I decided it was probably time for me to get an MRI. So I went to my doctor and I told him what was going on, and he asked me, "How are you doing with this?" And I told him with clarity and conviction, I knew they were incredible gifts. I knew I could turn this into something amazing no matter what we find out. A couple of days later, I saw these 2 text messages come in from my doctor. It turns out my brain is a little unusual. I want to share with you what these text messages said. The first one, he says, "This is a picture of a normal and healthy brain." The second text message, he says, "And this is your brain." My dear doctor, in all of his years of giving back test results, had never before pasted colorful emojis on top. But this is what happens when we show up for life believing so passionately in the gifts that are available to us, so committed to creating them. Life delivers and starts playing with us. I'm so incredibly grateful I don't have a tumor in my brain. So grateful. I do, however, have a seizure disorder, and I could spend the next few hours telling you of all the magnificent gifts that have come from that. I've gotten to learn so much more about these fascinating brains we all have. I've taken my health to a whole new level. I feel ever more awe of the preciousness of this miraculous gift of life. Nothing that has ever happened in your life is simply a loss or a mistake or a failure. Every seeming minus really is a plus, just waiting to happen. The key is this: Gifts don't usually just appear on their own. We need to be willing to believe in them, to step back from life and look for them, to be committed to creating them. So for those of you that aren't interested in believing this idea, those of you that aren't willing to consider that there could be gifts in the people on either side of you, in front of you, behind you, and out in all directions, or in whatever you're experiencing, I assure you, you will miss them. There could be so many gifts inside of you and everyone you encounter and whatever you experience, but they'll just pass right on by. But for those of you who are willing to persist in believing that there are gifts in this person, there are gifts in this experience, in everyone and everything, if you are willing to persist in believing that until they appear, they will be revealed to you. I promise you. And so much more happiness will be too. Thank you all so much.